Picture the late Cretaceous, 66 million years back. North America is crawling with the most famous predator in paleontology, Tyrannosaurus rex, massive jaws that could pulverize bone, teeth like oversized bananas, and those comically small arms that somehow make it even more terrifying. Rex is everywhere in pop culture. Every documentary, every disaster movie, every CGI recreation of the asteroid impact, there's always a T-Rex somewhere in frame. It's the default dinosaur, the automatic choice, the creature that owns the late Cretaceous in our collective imagination. But what if I told you Rex wasn't alone at the top? What if there was another apex predator stalking the same landscapes, hunting at the same time, and getting wiped out by the same asteroid? A creature almost nobody's heard of despite being discovered over 150 years ago. Meet the forgotten tyrant of North America, a monster that lived in Rex's shadow despite being every bit as deadly. This is Dryptosaurus, and its story is about to blow your mind. Here's the wild part. Dryptosaurus wasn't some recent fossil find that rewrote the textbooks. Scientists dug this thing up in the 1860s. To put that in perspective, this predator was discovered before the invention of sliced bread, before the light bulb, before we even understood what dinosaurs really were. A mining operation near New Jersey hit something unexpected in their quarry. Not just a few teeth like they'd found before, but an actual skeleton. Skull fragments, jaw pieces, vertebrae, arm bones, partial hand, pelvis, and a nearly complete hind leg. The first major theropod from eastern North America was staring them in the face. Scientists immediately knew they had a bipedal carnivore on their hands, but classification was a nightmare. They initially grouped it with Megalosaurus, a Jurassic predator from Europe, because honestly, they didn't have much else to compare it to. The original name was Laelaps aquilunguis, after a Greek hunting dog that never failed to catch its prey. Plot twist, a parasitic mite already had dibs on that name, so it became Dryptosaurus, tearing reptile, which honestly sounds way more metal anyway. Then came decades of taxonomic chaos. It got shuffled into different families, labeled as some kind of coelurosaur with uncertain placement, basically the paleontology equivalent of, we have no idea what this is. Its features didn't match anything in the fossil record at the time. Fast forward to the mid-1900s, scientists started noticing something interesting. This thing shared specific anatomical traits with Albertosaurus and Tyrannosaurus. Similar bone structures, fused foot bones, certain skeletal proportions. The pieces were starting to connect. The breakthrough came in 2005 when they unearthed the most complete specimen yet. The evidence was undeniable. Dryptosaurus belonged to Tyrannosauroidea, the same superfamily as T-Rex. Specifically, it was a tyrannosaurian, though probably not a true member of Tyrannosauridae. Its closest cousins appeared to be Appalachiosaurus and Bistahyversaur. Think of it like this. Dryptosaurus is T-Rex's distant relative. Same family reunion, different branch of the tree. But the real bombshell wasn't the classification, it was the dating. This predator lived between 67 and 66 million years ago, the exact same time frame as Tyrannosaurus rex. They were contemporaries coexisting in what we now call the United States. And somehow, this apex predator has been almost completely erased from pop culture. Now, before you assume Dryptosaurus was some small-time player, let's talk size. Fully grown adults stretched about 7.5 meters, roughly 25 feet from nose to tail. Weight estimates hit around 1.5 tons. For comparison, that's about as large as the biggest Ceratosaurus specimens or a mid-range Carnotaurus. Sure, it's no T-Rex, but it's more than capable of absolutely ruining your day and the day of pretty much any Mesozoic animal unlucky enough to cross its path. In fact, if you saw one charging toward you, you'd probably think it was a teenage Tyrannosaurus. But look closer and the differences emerge. Dryptosaurus had two subtle crests on its face, positioned just below the eyes, possibly for attracting mates. Its build was more streamlined, more agile than the stocky powerhouse design of Rex. The skull structure, certain bone proportions, the shape of specific bones in the foot, all distinct. Though let's be honest, if this thing is bearing down on you at full sprint, you're not going to be analyzing its skeletal morphology. Here's where it gets interesting. Remember T-Rex's tiny, almost useless-looking arms? The ones that spawned 1,000 memes? Dryptosaurus went in the complete opposite direction. Its arms were long, muscular, and equipped with genuinely terrifying claws, some measuring up to 8 inches or 20 centimeters. For scale, that's triple the blade length of a standard Swiss army knife. These weren't decorative, they were weapons. Those arms could grab prey, hold it in place, and tear it apart while the jaws did their work. Combined with serrated, curved teeth that closely resembled Allosaurus dentition, Dryptosaurus was a precision killing machine. Every attack would have caused massive blood loss and shock. Prey didn't stand much chance. Add in the standard tyrannosauroid perks. exceptional sense of smell for tracking prey and carrion, binocular vision for target acquisition, and you've got yourself an apex predator package. So we've established Dryptosaurus was a monster. The obvious question, what did it hunt? And this is where the story takes a fascinating turn. Despite living at the exact same time as T-Rex in the same modern-day country, these two predators never actually met. At least, we have zero evidence they ever crossed paths. The reason? Geography. Specifically, a massive inland sea called the Western Interior Seaway that literally split North America in half. During the late Cretaceous, this shallow sea created two separate landmasses, Laramidia in the west and Appalachia in the east. Think of them as isolated continents with their own unique ecosystems. Animals on one side rarely, if ever, made it to the other. The water itself was a barrier, plus whatever nightmares were swimming in it. T-Rex ruled Laramidia. Dryptosaurus owned Appalachia. By the time the final chapter of the Cretaceous rolled around, the seaway had probably shrunk considerably. Parts of the continent may have even reconnected, but Appalachia and Laramidia remained largely isolated, whether from periodic flooding due to sea level changes or simply because animal migrations take time, even after land bridges form. Either way, Dryptosaurus never got the chance to migrate west. T-Rex never made it east. So, Dryptosaurus reigned as the undisputed apex predator of late Cretaceous Appalachia, which meant it hunted completely different prey than its famous cousin. No Triceratops showdowns for this predator. The fossil formations tell us Dryptosaurus was going after various hadrosaurs, duck-billed dinosaurs like Hadrosaurus and relatives such as Hypacrosaurus, some of which tipped the scales at over 10 tons and stretched beyond 40 feet. There were also nodosaurs roaming Appalachia, armored dinosaurs that could have made decent meals, though tackling them would have been risky. Dryptosaurus lacked the bone-crushing bite force of larger tyrannosaurids, so heavily armored prey posed challenges. Ceratopsians, sauropods, basically non-existent in Appalachia. They were absent from the eastern landmass during this period, except for one mysterious ceratopsian tooth found in what's now Mississippi, possibly evidence of late-stage migration. But Dryptosaurus has never been found in the same formation as that tooth. Horned dinosaurs were exceptionally rare in the east, if they existed there at all. What was abundant? Ornithomimosaurs, ostrich-like dinosaurs that appear all over Appalachian fossil sites. And this actually makes perfect sense, given Dryptosaurus's body plan. That streamlined build, those grasping arms, ideal for chasing down fast-moving prey. Some of these ornithomimosaurs got massive too, with indeterminate species approaching 1 ton. Imagine 3 ostriches fused into a single nightmare bird. But Dryptosaurus probably wasn't a specialist. The environments where we find its fossils were coastal and near-shore zones, places absolutely packed with aquatic and semi-aquatic life. Fish of all sizes, including shark-sized monsters like Siphictinus, medium-sized marine reptiles like mosasaurs and plesiosaurs cruising the waters. The shoreline? Crawling with amphibians, frogs, toads, and salamanders, but not the cute little salamanders you're picturing. These were chunky 5-footers that would have made excellent snacks. Turtles like Corthocales and Adocus, various lizards, even mammals, though they were still small. Didelphodon, a metatherian slightly bigger than a modern opossum, held the title of Appalachia's largest mammal and was among the biggest mammals on Earth at the time. Point is, Dryptosaurus had options at every stage of its life, but it wasn't the only predator in town. As far as we know, Dryptosaurus was the largest theropod in late Cretaceous Appalachia and the biggest carnivore overall. But competition existed, primarily from crocodilians, which were everywhere. Multiple species shared the landscape, ranging from leg-sized juveniles to full-grown beasts you'd mistake for alligators. Nothing alligator-sized would threaten an adult Dryptosaurus, but juveniles? They'd want to avoid crocodilian-infested waters. And then there were the pterosaurs. Not exactly what you'd call scary in most contexts, except in Appalachia, where they absolutely were. Standard pteranodontoids probably served as occasional snacks for Dryptosaurus. But then you had the Ajdarchids, specifically Aramborgiania, one of the largest flying animals in Earth's history. Only Quetzalcoatlus and Hatzegopteryx rival it in size. This thing was a wingless dragon, wingspan potentially hitting 10 meters, 33 feet, equivalent to a Cessna 150. A literal airplane, its neck alone stretched 10 feet, taller than Shaq standing upright. On the ground, Aramborgiania might have stood as tall as a giraffe, making baby Dryptosaurus very much on the menu. Though an adult Dryptosaurus could probably take down even full-grown Aramborgiania. Advantage? Theropod. Worth noting that Aramborgiania remains from the US are tentatively identified and slightly older than Dryptosaurus. But elsewhere, Aramborgiania fossils date to 66 million years ago, suggesting potential overlap. Regardless, Dryptosaurus had a solid setup in Appalachia, isolated ecosystem, apex predator status, diverse prey base. It would have been fascinating to see how this lineage evolved if given more time. What if it had eventually crossed into Laramidia and encountered T-Rex? What kind of competition would have erupted? We'll never know, because Dryptosaurus only appeared 67 million years ago, practically yesterday in dinosaur terms, and just 1 million years later, everything ended. The asteroid hit. The KT extinction event wiped the slate clean. Dryptosaurus vanished alongside T-Rex and every other non-avian dinosaur, ending the brief reign of North America's forgotten co-ruler. And somehow, despite being discovered in the 1860s, despite being a genuine apex predator, despite living alongside the most famous dinosaur ever, Dryptosaurus remains virtually unknown outside paleontology circles. The tearing reptile deserves better.